think every single day, if I'm honest with you, every single day, I will think about taking my own life. So every day that I fight through this is a success, as far as I'm concerned.
So, what informations about a person with PTSD can be found in the documentary that our group has? Let us discuss it. So, Andy Price is the first patient, an Army veteran suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Andy wishes to commit suicide every day. Every day that he fights through it is a success in his eyes. He describes having PTSD as living in a storm in his head all the time, which he believes in the best way to describe it. He feels anxious, paranoid. He needs to be in some sort of fight or flight mode. He is always concerned about something happening in the back of his mind. He always smells or hears something that makes him remember something else, intrusive thoughts all the time. It's like a never-ending fight and he despises it. Prince is a second patient. He decided to discontinue his medication. He was taking 150 ml of sertraline daily, which is used to treat depression, obsessive-compulsive disorder, panic attacks, and post-traumatic stress disorder. He had some horrifying flashbacks that he never had seen before in his life. Very visual stuff. Darren was the last patient. He is still working and trying to push forward with the Veterans Hub, and the pressure of everything is just too much for him right now, so he has a lot of panic attacks. He is determined not to let it affect him, but it is also difficult for him because he still has things going on in his life, family, and mind.
Post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD is a psychiatric disorder that may occur in people who have experienced or witnessed a traumatic event such as a natural disaster, a serious accident, a terrorist act, war combat, or rape, or who have been threatened with death, sexual violence, or serious injury. PTSD have been known by many names in the past, such as shell shock during the years of World War I and combat fatigue after World War II. But PTSD does not just happen to combat veterans. They can occur in all people of any ethnicity, nationality, or culture, and at any age. People with PTSD have intense, disturbing thoughts and feelings related to their experience that last long after the traumatic event has ended. They may relive the events through flashbacks or nightmares, and they can feel sadness, fear, or anger, and they may feel detached or estranged from other people.
Some veterans at war that dealing with PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder is always feel anxious, always feeling paranoid, always need to be in sort of fight or flight mode, always concerned about something happening, always smelling something or hearing something that makes them remember what happened in the past. Their mind is full of intrusive thoughts all the time, always drinking and becomes alcoholic. Andy is one of the veterans that feels frustrated. He is hitting walls, so his wife bought him a punching bag for him to release his frustration there instead on the wall. Darren is also suffering with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. He always feels really bad. He always blames himself. He was so suicidal. He felt useless, worthless, also projecting his own feelings to his family. He always thought that his family doesn't want to be with him because of him being a burden. Many veterans of wars are also dealing with the same situation of what Andy and Darren feel in their daily life.
So in the documentary that we have watched, titled Fight or Flight, the veterans at war with PTSD. So in the documentary that we have watched, we tackle that the veterans that suffers from the post-traumatic stress disorder, or what we all know as PTSD. So as we can see, those veterans, they have been exposed to war. They suffer from a big scar that will take a very long time to heal. So these veterans have been directly exposed to traumatic events that they are having nightmares after witnessing many deaths and killings in war. So Taking medications 3 times a day help them feel at ease for a while. So in the diagnostic criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder, we can determine if the person is suffering from PTSD. So in the documentary about the veterans, we can clearly see that they are directly exposed and experience and witnessing the traumatic event. Like they saw their friends' death, bombing, screaming for help, and those ones establish anxiety and paranoia to their lives.
The diagnostic criteria of PTSD Part D showed the presence of 1 or 2 intrusion symptoms that are related with the traumatic events right after its occurrence. These 5 symptoms are all mentioned in the video except for the second one. Although all of them experience the intrusive thoughts, recurrent and involuntary memories, and sometimes they think of taking their own life. They also experience dissociative reaction to the point that they experience extreme breakdowns from time to time. In addition, the 4th and the 5th, psychological, wherein they experience mood changes and irritations that they do subconsciously to the extent where they end up hurting themselves physically.
As observed from the documentary that we have watched, we can see some persistent avoidance of stimuli associated with traumatic events and beginning after the traumatic events occurred. This is under the diagnostic criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder under Section C. One evidence shown in the video that proves a persistent avoidance is when they stop taking their medicines. Panic attacks and anxiety attacks started to come at them as soon as they stopped taking their meds. It made them feel that they're just a burden to their family and that their family don't need them anymore. They keep on thinking as well that they don't have anything. That's why they feel like less of a person. Because of these thoughts that they have in their mind, they would come up with the suicide solution. Although they looked for the destructive lifestyle, they find it just really hard to get through it. It affects their mood a lot, being angry all the time and not being able to sleep properly.
So Andy said he's always anxious and always feeling paranoid, and also nakaramdam din siya ng frustration, and that's why his wife gave him punching bag para ma-release niya yung frustration na, which includes in diagnostic criteria for PTSD wherein he's experiencing persistent negative emotional state. And meron pa isa, si Darren, a disabled veteran suffering with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. Pasok din siya sa diagnostic criteria for PTSD because sabi ni Sarah, yung wife niya, na Darren feels really bad and blaming himself kasi yung nangyayari sa bahay nila is medyo mess up and nandahil yung kay Darren. And Darren also said na if he wasn't injured, if I hadn't married him, then none of this would have needed to be done. And this shows persistent distorted cognition about the cause or consequences of the traumatic events that leads the individual to blame himself or herself or the others.
So, ang napili namin cases about sa veterans at war with PTSD. Noong 2009, umalis si Andy sa Army at simula noon, nahirapan na siyang mamuhay ng normal dahil sa mga na-experience niya noong nasa Army siya. Doon nalaman ni Andy na meron siyang PTSD at nararanasan na yon for years. Andy Price came from the military at nakwento niya na madaming namatay sa mga kasamahan niya habang nasa gera sila, kaya nagkaroon siya ng exposure sa mga patayan at nagkakaroon siya ng mga flashback sa mga events na nangyari sa kanya na nagli-lead sa panic attack niya, at pag naaalala niya yon, nagsi-self-harm siya, at kapag nasi-stress siya, sinusuntok niya yung pader, which is nagli-lead sa pagkasugat ng kamao niya. Merong friend si Addy, which is si Mike, na isinama niya sa hub kasi natutulog siya sa ilalim ng puno kasi doon niya daw na-feel yung peace, kumbaga na gusto niyang maramdaman tuwing na-experience niya ang PTSD. Lumalayo siya sa mga tao kasi pakiramdam niya walang nakakaintindi sa kanya, kaya sobrang pasasalamat niya kasi in-invite siya ni Andy dun sa hub at doon niya nalaman na meron palang mga tao at maraming tao na katulad niya.
In the documentary that we watched, the symptoms that shows that they had PTSD is that they feel anxious, paranoid, they need to be in sort of fight or flight mode. They're always concerned about something happening at their back of their head. It's like a never-ending fight for them. Panic attacks, horrifying flashbacks, and some other traumatic stuffs. As a result of their experience as veterans after returning home, they are all involved in delayed expressions. And they are also vulnerable to dissociative symptoms as demonstrated in the documentary.
People with PTSD have intense disturbing thoughts and feelings related to their experience that last long after the traumatic event has ended. They may relive the event through flashback or nightmares that may feel sadness, fear, or anger, and they may feel detached or estranged from other people. In the documentary that we chose, he felt relief every time he punches something. He said that it is more okay than hurting himself. The sociological responses associated with fight or flight can play a critical role in surviving truly threatening situation. However, many patients suffering from anxiety disorder or other condition may have treat system which have become overactive or which are insufficiently counterbalanced by activity in the parasympathetic nervous system. Practically, many patients who suffer from anxiety will benefit from a deeper understanding of the fight and flight response. For example, patients with panic attack or panic disorder often misinterpret the bodily signs associated with fight or flight as a signs of impending catastrophe or understanding the fight or flight responses in therefore a helpful decatastrophizing technique. Similarity, patients with post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD may mistake that increased physiological arousal as an indicator that there is a genuine threat present. Understanding more about the fight or flight response can help them to feel safer and to implement relaxation and grounding strategies.